To create a colorant set, we must have already created a quality style such as bleached cotton jersey. We also must have created a dye process such as cotton exhaust. Please refer to our videos on how to create the quality style and dye process. The colorant set is a group of dyes that are used to dye a particular fiber. The colorant set we are creating is reactive. We will enter into the colorant set, and on the blank space on the right, New. Then from the options listed, we will select Textile. Textile is our most used option for dyeing. This will open our blank colorant set dialog. We will input the mandatory fields with the asterisks. In the name box, we will click and type our name Reactive. We will then click the ID box to create our ID. Our industry type is already filled out. It is Textile. In the dye process box, we will double-click and we must browse for our dye process, cotton exhaust. Click OK, then Accept. Liquor ratio is filled in as 10. In the substrate delivery box, double-click and browse for your substrate delivery. Select bleached cotton, jersey, then click on OK and Accept. We have now filled in all of our header information for our colorant set. To save this information, go to the bottom right-hand corner and click the Store button. The next step will be to add our dye stuff. We will click on the New button to add a dye to the dye set. Since there have not been any dyes entered into the system, we will click on New again to create our dye stuff. There are two ways to create dye stuff names. You can have the program generate a name based on your inputs, or you can type the name directly into the system. In this example, we will input the name directly. On the dye stuff page, we will click on the left-hand corner of the name box to change the icon to green for input. We will type in the name of our dye, Blue G. Then click on the ID box to accept the name. We then will have to fill in our inputs with the asterisks next to them. First, we will browse for our dye class. We will select Reactive and click OK. Then we will browse to select our dye star and click OK. The product type is already there. It is dye stuff. Click on the inventory unit and select pound. We will then put in our price under actual price box. Click on Save to save the dye stuff, and then Close to take us back to the colorant set page with our newly created dye stuff. We will next fill in percentage dyings that we have made from the dye stuff. These are from 0.1 to 4.5. We can input up to 16 concentrations for each colorant. Next, we will select our input method. We will choose Measurements. We will then measure our 0.1% sample. We will click the Multiple checkbox, then select the spectrophotometer icon to start our measurement. We will measure the sample 4 times, moving and rotating the piece after each measurement. Click Accept to finish. The sample will increment up to the 0.25 sample. For the purpose of this video, we will uncheck the multiple measurement box, but we recommend you measure the rest of your samples multiple times. We will continue to measure the rest of our concentrations. We now see the curve building for this dye stuff. This is our K over S versus concentration curve. It represents the dye build of the colorant. The curve should be an increasing smooth curve or a straight line. If there is a problem with this curve, we still would want to hit the Accept button. On the next page, samples can be reread or omitted altogether. On the main page of the die set screen, we see our new die stuff Blue G in our die set reactive. Down below, we see all our samples that we read in for this die. The strength next to the samples should be gradually decreasing from lowest to highest, as they are in this example. The lowest concentration is set to 100%, and all others related to this one. Up on the top right, our die set page, we see the reflectance value of all our samples. To view the K over S curve for the die set, you will highlight the die in the list, then right-click and from the drop-down choose K over S absolute strength. Our graph changes and we see our K over S curve. The K over S graph should be a gradual curve or a straight line. If it is a good curve, which it is for the Blue G, we can hit Calculate Single, then Store. To add our next die stuff, click on the New button, then click on New again to input our new die stuff, Red BRL. On the die stuff page, click in the upper left-hand corner of the name box to change it to input. Type in the name Red BRL. Then click on the ID box to accept the name. We can then input the information which has asterisks next to it, which is mandatory. And press Insert. Then click on Close. Our newly input die stuff shows on the next page. This time we are not going to measure in our die stuff but browse for our samples. We check From Database, then browse for our die primaries. This is the case if the die stuff had come from a die stuff supplier. Click on the primaries, then type the name you are looking for. The % sign is a wildcard. You will then click on the first primary in the list, hold down the Shift key, then select the last primary in the list. Click on the OK button. You will then see the K over S curve of the die primaries. Also, the primary concentrations are adjusted to what is retrieved on the die stuff page. You can then click OK and you will see the new die stuff Red BRL. We see our samples below, and on the top right it has now defaulted to the K over S graph. If the curve is good, we can click on Single, calibrate the curve. If the curve was not good, we could choose either Smooth or Automatic to enhance the curve. Smooth adjusts the die concentration for larger variation in die stuff strength. Automatic is between Smooth and Measured. We'll use Measured in this case. Measured is the recommended method if you can use it. Click the Store button to store your calibrations. Our next die stuff in the die set is Yellow 2R. Follow the procedure described for the blue and red and input the Yellow 2R. Click on Insert, then on Close to take us back to the screen where we input our primaries. Our die stuff Yellow 2R is shown. We are going to read in the primaries, but the concentration for the yellow are different than the ones shown by the default from the previous die stuff. So we must input the new concentrations. We will begin measuring the first concentration for our Yellow 2R. We see that after measuring the 0.5 primary, our K over S curve is no longer smooth or a straight line. At this point, we should keep measuring the primaries in the series. We will be able to correct any errors on the next page. After these are measured, we can see the dip in the K over S curve more clearly at the 0.5%. We click on Accept and we can correct the primary on the following page. One way to correct the K over S curve might be to omit the 0.5% primary by clicking the Do Not Use box. This straightens the K over S curve. This may work, but a better way to correct this may be to remeasure the primary. Uncheck the Do Not Use box and set up your 0.5% sample on the spectro. Then highlight the green area corresponding to the 0.5% primary, right-click and choose Remeasure Calibration Sample. From the dialog box, click on the Measure button. We will measure once and hit the Accept Now to accept the measurement. Then click Accept again to add it to the set. This seems to correct our problem. If it did not, we would choose the Do Not Use checkbox again to correct our K over S curve. This would straighten the curve. We can then calibrate this dye stuff. We can choose Measured, just as it was measured in, or Automatic to apply some smoothing to the K over S curve. We will choose Measured, and then choose Single to calibrate the curve for the yellow 2R. Then click Store to store it. We can now click on each dye stuff to see their respective K over S curves. We can also look at the DE for each dye stuff to see the change any manipulations the curve had made. You can also see and adjust, if need be, the minimum and maximum concentration for formulation of each dye stuff here. Also shown is your method used for calibration of each primary. Monotony manipulates the build of the K over S curve and is used when there is an error when making a sample. If we then click End, it closes the die set and we are on the main die set page. We can click on the Name title bar to see our new die set reactive. We then click on our Overview tab to take us back to the main screen and match